Okay, so I'm going to tag Trevor and let him know that I'm on. And then we can get rocking and rolling. Okay, here we go. So that needs to go away. Why can't I get this to go away? I tried to tag and, okay, search. You can go away now. Oh, Lord. I can't get that screen. There we go. Okay. That was weird. Okay. Okay, so we are here. I'm so excited. My cardio coach, Trevor, is here, and he's actually just popping on. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. Hi, Grace. When you guys get here, say hello. Oh, you probably can't hear me. I forgot. I have my earbuds. Hi, Trev.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Okay, so I decided I'm going to wear my earbuds, you guys, because the last time I did a live, I found that my audio just was not that great. So I hope that you guys can hear me okay. Wanted to introduce my friend Trevor. He's actually my cardio coach at Lifetime Fitness. And we did as you saw, the image where we did they call it AMA, but it's a VO2 max test, right? So I wanted to bring Trevor on because we had gotten into such great conversation because we both are very sciencey when it comes to this stuff. And, it's important to have some science background with regard to what you are doing. And I know that oftentimes people get so frustrated with reaching their goals and they just wonder why I keep doing this, and I'm not getting results. And so Trevor and I thought that we could give you some insight as to some of the myths out there and some, give you some great tips and stuff. So we just thought we'd have a conversation and share it with you. So Trev, why don't you give them just a little bit of background of, what you're all about?
So, little bit of background info on me. I used to own my own gym, a CrossFit gym, prior to working at Lifetime. And then once I got started at Lifetime, that's actually when I got introduced to like the metabolic testing portion. And it was definitely like very eye-opening in the sense of like, okay, there is like a whole science and method behind all this cardio, right? It's not just like, do high intensity all the time and try to break yourself and just burn all these calories. And it's not just low intense steady state, like training like a marathon runner. There's very different components to it, and it's very cool in that sense. But I also have a background in nutrition. I love lifting weights, so the active metabolic assessment was kind of tough for me when I did it. But it was still cool because it showed me why I was weak in certain areas. But yeah, just a little background info on me.
No, that's perfect. So a couple of things that you had brought up had, brought some questions to mind. So one of the questions that I get all the time is weights or cardio or both, or do I do them on the same day, or what do I do? I'm not really sure how long I should do it, and often women, this, are cardio queens. And I myself love cardio, but I absolutely know that it doesn't give me the body that I desire. So right now, I would say I have a very cardio looking body because my weight training has kind of gone a little bit toward the wayside a little bit because of my travel and just the year and a half of with the pregnancy and all that stuff. And that's not the body that I desire. And it's generally not the body that most women desire. They desire that toned body, but they don't realize that it's a combination of obviously nutrition, weights, and cardio. But let's kind of talk about the difference between the two. You and I talked about the other day how there's the person that comes in twice a day on the Stairmaster.
Yeah.
So what is your opinion with regard to, okay, weights first or cardio first, or cardio on separate days and weights on separate days? So there's all of these things. So let's hear it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always like the good, better, best scenario. So like, there's obviously like times where some people are going to have to do cardio and weights in the same session. Is that ideal? Like maybe for the individual, depends on their fitness level. But I would say like starting out, like you would definitely want to prioritize weight training first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can get in, I mean, still like you can still come in and warm up, but you know, like keep the warm up like easy, right? You know, like do like a very gradual walk to start and then increase your speed as you go.
Mm-hmm.
But like 10 minutes max, right? You don't got to get anything crazy because most people feel better.
Yeah.
That's like the thing that I get the most is like, well, I feel better after I do the cardio. And I'm like, well, have you tried stopping halfway through instead of committing to a full 20 minutes and just
Yeah.
like continuing on with like a dynamic warm up after, you
Yeah.
know, and that's usually when they're like, oh, okay, you know, like I'll give that a shot
Mm-hmm.
because I get the endorphin rush after the cardio, right?
Yeah.
But it's like try doing 8 to 10 minutes of that and then getting off and then doing your dynamic warm up and get into your weight training.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of people they're coming to work out after work and that's like their unwind time. You
Yeah.
know, like get on the treadmill, start walking, unwind, clear your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that way, like then you can get into the weight training. And the reason I say do the weight training first is because you're gonna have more energy at the start of that session versus if you were to do like a 20-minute hit session and then go try to back squat. It's not going to be, you're not going to
Ideal.
have like the most amount of weight lifted in that session. And essentially we're always striving for performance because our goal is to preserve muscle or gain muscle. We never want to be on the side of losing muscle. And if you aren't living up to your muscle's capabilities, chances are you're going to take away from that session, that strength training session.
Yes. Yes.
So I would definitely say weights before cardio.
Mm-hmm.
And then in an ideal scenario, you know, like maybe you have like a 30-minute break after your weight training session. You can grab a little bit of water. You can do a proper cool down. You can recover a little bit, and then you could go into a cardio session. I don't think 2-a-days are necessary.
Right.
And it really depends on the individual. You know, if
Right.
you're talking about like a bodybuilding competitor, for sure, you know, like maybe they're doing 2-a-days where you're doing cardio in the morning and weights at night or vice versa. But if you're just talking your everyday person, I would say like you can do both in the same day and it's not gonna destroy you. But again, like it's always very individualized. Like
Yeah.
you got to pay attention to how you feel. You know, if you finish that session and like the weight training session was high intensity, you know, and then you do a high intensity cardio session to finish, we got to remember like high intensity equals high recovery. Low intensity equals low recovery. Right?
You know, and something that he brought up, what he's talking about, you guys, is do the lighter warm up and then go get, so he's basically saying preserve your energy that you have in your muscles for the weight training so that you can perform better because your glycogen gets stored in the muscles. That's what you're referring to, correct? So,
Yeah.
you know, you want to preserve that energy that you have stored in there because if you go all out on a cardio session and then decide to do your weights, you are basically, let's say you're sacrificing. So instead of being able to, you know, maybe hit 15 pounds on your bicep curls, you're only able to do 10 or legs.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And so you want to prioritize, you want to be strategic and you want to prioritize the weights first this is why he's saying this is because ultimately the look that you desire is going to come from weight training. Yes, they are both important components, but you have to be strategic and smart about it. 2-a-days, that's a term, you guys, that is, yeah, that's used in, it's like the gym talk or even the football world. You guys may have remembered that show back in the day called 2-a-days. And it was, you know, where you exercise twice a day. Now, is that healthy for an average person? No. Is that desirable lifestyle? Absolutely not. And what he's referring to is the fact that there are people that are, you know, maybe they have a photo shoot that they're dieting down for. Maybe they're going to be in a bikini contest. Maybe they're going to be, you know, and these are just very small, short windows of time in their life. And they just don't desire to do the 2-a-days, but they know that it is required in order to achieve the temporary result that they're looking for. So it's not an ideal situation. Now, I hope that I, you know, kind of broke that down a little bit for you guys too, because that's such valuable information. Another common question that I get too, Trev, is, and what I really want to hit on, I think towards the end, is the stress of exercise, especially the stress of cardio, and how you and I were both like, oh my God, it's so refreshing to speak to somebody in this language and to speak to somebody that agrees about the fact that you hear people all the time, I'm going to sign up to do a marathon or a half marathon, and they think they're going to lose weight, and it's really not. But we're going to talk about that later. But I want to chat about one of the biggest questions that I get, and I'm sure you probably do as well, is what should they eat prior to cardio? Do you prefer empty belly? And I know, again, it's going to be person to person specific. However, let's just talk science. So what is your take on pre-workout or eating something prior to doing cardio? Where's your stand?
So first thing I just want to touch on the whole the window that you talked about for the people that are doing the 2-a-days. It's such a short period of their life that they're actually doing that, and like everybody takes that as, oh my God, they do that every day.
Yep.
You know, so I think that was such a good point. I just wanted to touch on that.
Yes,
so,
thank you for the reinforcer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, sorry, can you repeat your question?
The question was, one of the biggest questions that I get is, what should I eat, or should I go empty belly? People ask me that all the time. What's your thing on, do you think should I do empty belly cardio? Listen, for me, it's personal preference. I used to do empty belly. You have people literally on both sides of the fence. Like you might have one trainer say, well, you're going to burn your muscle. You might have one trainer, you know what I mean? So what's your stance on it? Especially I'm asking you, and I'm trusting you more because you see this test that you do, and this is very specific. So what is your opinion?
Yeah. So actually, we had 2 tests go down on like our laptop, right? So our laptop's connected to an analyzer, which is connected to the mask, which you saw on Kelly. And then that's actually where we're breathing oxygen, and the analyzer's collecting the oxygen. And when we hook people up that are fasted and they do their cardio, it does read that they burn more fat. And what that means is, like, when they're doing their cardio, they are essentially in a more, like, their body's going to attack fat for their calories, and then instead of carbs. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your cardio session is going to be burning more calories, right? Because like when you are burning fat for calories, the carbohydrates are much more desirable, and you're going to be burning your performance is going to be much higher when you're burning carbs, right? Because it's an immediate source of energy, which is going to allow you to push a lot harder.
Yes.
So that being said, what I do recommend prior to cardio or any form of exercise is some form of carbohydrate fuel. But this also depends on your timing prior to exercise. Like for some people that wake up, and they got to work out at 5 a.m., it's not realistic to have like a full meal or like a bowl of oatmeal or like a banana, because it sits too heavy in their stomach.
Right.
And then that's usually when I'm like, okay, you can try this fasted state workout, but just understand that it's going to be tough initially, because your body's going to go from burning carbs for energy to burning fat for energy. And when your body's not used to that, you're going to feel like lightheaded. You're going to feel like low energy. You're going to feel lethargic.
Yep.
But your body does adapt, right? And as you experienced, you said you did fasted cardio, correct?
Yep.
And it's not an easy thing to adjust.
It's not. No.
So I don't I don't recommend it for everyone, but it is like, it's something that you're going to have to try. As far as like the science goes, we kind of laid that down, that you're going to be burning more fat, but understanding that your body needs to be efficient at processing fat for energy. And if it's not, and that's one thing that we can actually go over in the test is like, is your body efficient at processing fat for energy? And if it's not, then we can actually see like in the analyzer, like, okay, you're kind of weak in your lower heart rates at processing fat. You're very good at processing carbs, and that's like, that's an area where we can improve on if that's desirable.
Which is great.
Yeah, exactly.
That test was really eye-opening for me. I was really shocked to see that my body, I was pleasantly surprised, but it also answered a question, not to cut you off, but it also answered a question why I feel slow sometimes in my workout, because my body is very efficiently burning fat. It wants to pull fat first, right, Trav? Is that what we read? And I was like, well, no freaking wonder I feel the way that I feel when I'm exercising, because it's not pulling for the carb. Now there's 2 sides to that, right? Because the way that I feel, but also it's like, okay, good, we're getting into those fat stores, but it's a different feeling. You get a different feeling from a carb workout than you do a fat. So you guys keep that in mind. This is where biofeedback is so, so important, and why you have to really be in tune and really understand your body. Because I remember saying to Kirby a couple weeks ago, I'm just feeling slower in my workouts than I used to. Now, do I still do fasted cardio? No, I've shifted. I usually eat about 90 minutes, maybe 60 minutes, just a plain piece of gluten-free toast and either egg whites or maybe a whole egg with just a little bit of trace fat, because I don't want the digestion to slow me down, because again, that can hurt my performance.
Yeah.
It'll make you feel heavy,
Yeah.
you know, and we don't like that. So,
No.
okay, so I didn't mean to cut you off, but this test
No,
was
you're okay.
so incredible. Now, here's the thing, you guys. We've all heard 220 minus your age, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's a lot of error in there, okay? Lots of error. Just kind of like the bioimpedance, you know, where it tells your body fat. Now, I'm going to have Lucas on here, Colin Bear's trainer. We're going to talk about the body fat and just some fitness tips and things like that, but we're going to go in that direction on there. So stay tuned for that. But there's so many different variables here, you guys. And can you use the 220 minus your age? Sure. Is it going to give you the most effective results? Probably not. But when you do a test like this, it is very specific to you. And so the biggest question, I know, like Allison had commented, and I know you had commented as well, Trev, where she had said, does this really make that big of a difference? Does it really make a difference when you have this information and whatnot? So I would like for you to elaborate on that. Why is it so beneficial for somebody to take the time and spend the money to do this? You know,
I mean,
go ahead.
yeah, there's multiple reasons, you know, and it's like, it's always going back to, you know, like what your goal is, first of all. But, you know, like if you don't have a starting point and you don't necessarily know what's going on internally, you know, there's a lot of times where, you know, like in cardio sessions, it's kind of like you can tell that you're improving by like the way you feel, or your times on like your miles and stuff. But it's like, how can you tell that like you are physically, or I should say internally improving, you know?
Yeah.
And really the only way to actually know that, like, is my body more efficient at uptaking oxygen? You know, is my resting heart rate lower? You know, is my threshold higher and or lower? Is my baseline higher or lower? You're never going to really know unless if you have that concrete data, right?
Can we pause right there and talk about
Sure.
those things, the threshold, all of that stuff? Because to them, they're kind of like, what does all that mean? Like, you know, you and I, like, we thrive on hearing that stuff, but it makes complete sense. But to them, we have to really break it down so that they kind of understand.
Yeah, so like your threshold is like what can you withstand? You know, and like it's almost like, think of it as like your exercise tolerance. So like when you're working out, like what can you physically take before you before you break, or before you need to like just stop. You know, so think of that as like your threshold, right? Your baseline. So like what is like your kind of minimal amount of effort that you can put in and still achieve like an exercise based result? Because you got to understand, like, you know, for someone who is very overweight and never really exercised, walking around the mall can get them great results. And that's because their heart rate gets to a certain point of their threshold, right? But you get someone who is a trained athlete, walking around the mall no longer cuts it anymore, you know? And that's not to get off topic, but that's why a lot of the times when people start exercise and they start off so light in weights and they never change their weights, and then they hit a plateau and they don't know why, that is because their body actually adapted. Their body did get stronger, and then they never changed the weights.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you will never achieve a result because you're not challenging the body like you once did.
Yeah.
Like when you first started, those 10 pounds felt hard. Or when you first started, walking up the steps was difficult. You know, it's like that's where, like, you know, like you can obviously feel those differences. Those are tangible things that you're going to notice. But it's always cool to see like that actual concrete data right in front of you.
Yes.
Where you're like, wow, you know, like this is like, these are my numbers. Like these are what I need to be at.
Yes. It is.
Yeah,
and not to interrupt you, but remember when I said I knew exactly where my threshold was? I knew, like I said, remember I was like around 600. That's around where I feel like, fuck this. I just want to give up. I don't want to get uncomfortable. That's the threshold, you guys, where you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this. And when you hear people talk about the burn, that is like your threshold, because that's that lactic acid that's starting to, develop and all of that. So yeah, it is important to understand this. So Carrie Ann, I just wanted to kind of describe the threshold to you, because you know what it is. It's kind of like if you are, let's say you're running and you want to do a 30-second interval, and then Sally says, hey, do you want to do da-da-da? And you're thinking, I don't want to respond. Like, it's too difficult to even say no, because you are exerting. It's just it's a level of perceived exertion. And so if you were to be like a 1 to 10, 1 would be like your 1 to 3, maybe like the baseline, would you say? And then
like your so basically, like, you have a zone 1, which is just above like your baseline, right? So like zone 1 is where you are doing some form of exercise. Like below zone 1 is kind of like when you are like walking around. And again, like, this is very generalized. This would be like someone who is doing the 220 minus their age, right? It's like that's like for that, and that essentially that's for what America deems a healthy individual, right? So like, if that's usually like in the fitness world, that is very, very generic, and that is not going to work for someone who has been exercising for a while.
I would fire my coach if he said, let's do 220 minus your age. I'd be like, no, just like I would fire a doctor that says, let me take your BMI. Yeah.
Oh my God. That needs to be another video.
Well, let's do we'll do that, Trevor. I'll invite you back and we'll talk about that shit, because I have clients that seriously get so upset, and I'm like, listen, do me a favor and fire that doctor, because that means that they are not up to the times. That's bullshit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's terrible.
And like, how unfair is it too? Because they're in such a point of power where they can tell anybody that they're obese, and they're not gonna question it by any way, shape, or form, because they have the word doctor in front of their name.
Yep, exactly.
Like, it's terrible, It's like, that doctor's overweight, and he's telling me that I'm fat, right?
Right.
I'm like, how does that work? I'm like, this guy's telling me I need to work out. I work out every day. He does push-ups at home sometimes. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah. Exactly. Not to mean to get off track, but okay. So we were talking about the different zones, but I know that here's the thing, you guys. This is why fitness people get like so excited to talk to each other, because there's just so many. See how there's so many directions that we can go in, and we just love to share, because most of the time people that are in this realm, we love people and we love to help, and we love to share as much information as we possibly can. So sorry if we
just
kind of go.
Help.
Yeah, exactly. And really dispel a lot of these myths. So we have the zone 1, which is above your kind of like, I call it the NEAT factor, the NEAT, non-exercise, right? Yeah. Okay. So NEAT, you guys, is something that you can do. Like today, I've got a lot of NEAT going on. I'm doing my laundry, and I'm running around chasing the baby, and I'm doing the dishes, and I'm this and that. So that's just kind of like, I can manipulate how much of that I do or don't. Like, there wasn't a lot of NEAT yesterday, but today, there is. And then there's like the zone 1, which is what he's talking about. So we're above the baseline. So you're just kind of like maybe gradually doing a stroll, would you say? Like a stroll on the treadmill, and you're just starting to feel like you're moving. Okay, good.
Or like you're walking your dog, like, and you're getting like a little like like
perspiration.
Not even heavy breathing, but like you're kind of breaking a brisk sweat, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're like walking on the beach, something that is just a little bit more difficult than what you usually
do.
Your
norm. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And then zone 2, that's kind of where like you're upping a notch from that. Like, you might be doing like a weightlifting set, and you're finishing, and you're still okay. Zone 3 is more like, okay, we're starting to work a little bit. There's not necessarily like a want to talk to people, but there's still the ability to.
Yeah.
And then zone 4 is more like, okay, I could talk to you, but I really want you to shut up.
Yes.
And like, let me get to this. And then zone 5 is now where you're entering that threshold where you're like, it's more like someone's chasing me with a knife and I'm running away.
The fight or flight kind of feel. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, good. So you guys, another way. So let's say, for example, you, because let me just say this, we'll plant the seed right now and then we'll go back to it later, but you can get this test done through Trevor. You do not have to belong to the gym in order to get this done. It is so efficient. Like I said, I have to be and want to be very efficient with my exercise. I don't have a lot of time, and I know you don't either.
Yeah.
So when I get in there, I want to know that what I'm doing is efficient and that it's getting the work done. So I get my workouts emailed from Trevor I have certain dates that they get sent to me on certain days of the week. So I get them 4 times a week. Now, where was I going? Oh, shoot. I kind of lost my train of thought. Talk test. So here's the thing. If you are like, okay, I'm just starting out, I really don't want to get this test done, I'm not interested in that. And listen, we're not here to pitch this, test just on this. I really wanted this to be an informative live for you, but I also wanted to say, hey man, listen, here's a resource for you that you can up your game right here, right? So the thing is if you're just starting out, or you're thinking, well, I really kind of want to test these zones he's talking about, you can do a talk test. Okay. So your talk test would be, you can talk to somebody on your phone. That's like, you're probably in zone 1, maybe zone 2. Then when you find like you're kind of getting breathless and you feel embarrassed to talk. Let's say you see that your kid's school is calling and you have to answer, and you're kind of puffy, breathing heavy in the phone. That right there is a level of, okay, I'm getting into a level of exertion. And then, when how we talked about, if you get into those other levels, you'll know that you don't feel like having the conversation. Like it's almost, it's like it hits a thorn. Like you're thinking, I don't want to have this conversation right now. I can't even say a word. So a talk test is a really good beginner's kind of a tool and resource for you that you can utilize if you're someone that doesn't want to go as far as the heart rate monitor. So let's talk about the heart rate monitor. So, the one that I had, luckily, what was that called? Yeah, we're not even talking about that. I gifted one to somebody yesterday, and I won't even say what that means. So I'm waiting for my other one to come in today. But what's the brand of that, Trev?
It's called a Skosh.
Skosh. Now, I had invested in that at Orange Theory, thinking that, oh, great. Now it's just something that is just sitting there. So you guys, this Skosh isn't just for an Orange Theory workout, which is great. So I know that there's several of you that I'm friends with here that have one of those. So those Skoshes are really multi-purpose, right? Like you can.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you got even the newer ones. Like if you guys are like into swimming, or you're like into whatever, like if you want to do like water aerobics, you can actually still use the newer Skoshes that are waterproof. But even like the older models that are a little bit cheaper, you can still use those. A lot of people will use them for even weightlifting, because when they weightlift, they might end up getting stuck like talking to somebody, or they're taking too long in between their sets. So you can even maximize your weight training by wearing a heart rate monitor, and with the Lifetime app, or even the Scotia's regular iPhone or Android app, you can still hook your heart rate monitor up to your phone, and then you can keep track of your heart rate zones. So that way, like, you can still make your weightlifting sets or your weightlifting workouts more effective as well.
Yeah, which is great. Because here's the thing. I think a lot of times people think weightlifting is boring. And, until they start to see the results, and like, oh my God, I'm really liking this leanness and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you start to incorporate maybe your heart rate and make it more of a challenge for yourself, I think that would be awesome. So the next thing that I want to move into is stress. So I think, like I said, I hadn't even talked to Trevor prior to him giving the test. And then we started to talk, and then I started to, talk about, I'm a metabolism, reboot specialist basically. And I help women to, lose fat and help them to redesign their life and whatnot. And so stress and sleep was one of our biggest things that we had talked about, and how, oftentimes we come across people that are sacrificing sleep to get their exercise in. Or one of the biggest things we both chuckled was, I want to lose weight. I'm going to sign up for a half marathon or do a marathon. So let's talk about that, because it's stress, you guys. And, you're placing stress on the body. And so can you elaborate it? Because they've heard me talk about this shit time and time again. So I think it's good to get a different perspective. So we'd love to hear your take on it, and to tell them, why it's really not the best idea.
Yeah. And, it's kind of like, if you look at a marathon runner, most people never are like, man, I really want to look like that.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Yeah,
I've
they wouldn't look
never
like a
met.
sprinter.
Yes, more people want to look like a sprinter. And I absolutely love the analogy that you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels.
Oh,
And that is
oh,
like, you know, like, and that is the reference to the sleep. You know, I've talked to so many people that are like, you know, I wake up 2 hours early to come in and do 1 hour of cardio and then get ready for my day. You know, and I'm like, well, why don't you go to bed 2 hours earlier and then wake up at the same, like, wake up at 8 hours later? You know, like, I don't even think that, I think it's just so brainwashed into everybody that,
it is.
like, it's hard work over everything. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's not so much that it's hard work over everything. It's like being smart and efficient, like you said, with your workouts is way more important. And if you don't recover from your workouts, we have to understand that exercise is the breakdown process of of fitness, right? And then sleep and nutrition are the recovery process. And the thing that happens in the recovery process is where you actually build the muscle or you adapt to the exercise. And we have to understand that if we don't have that sleep process or we don't have that nutrition in place, like, nothing is going to happen.
Nothing.
I don't want to say nothing, but like a lot less is going to happen.
A lot less.
Right?
Yes.
A lot less.
Yeah,
So,
because
like,
you're really messing with your metabolism at this point, you know,
it's
and
terrible, you
it's
know?
yeah, and that's the thing where people say, well, I just don't understand. Why am I not getting any results? I'm working out
Yeah.
every day. Okay, well, let's talk about your sleep and let's talk about how you're managing your stress and
Yes.
let's talk about your nutrition. Well, okay, I ate about 900 calories a day, max 12. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I get anxiety. Now listen,
Yeah.
I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm making fun of my former self. That was me, okay? And so I have obviously evolved and educated myself and hence become a coach because I know that that this is a epidemic, right?
Yeah.
So carrying
Well,
on, so as he was saying, it's you're breaking down. You're breaking your body down. And then you have to recover, you guys. Just kind of
yeah.
like when I talk about your skin, you have to protect and you have to preserve your skin at nighttime. Nighttime is when all the magic happens with everything.
Yes.
Nighttime is when
Yeah.
your body is repairing. Nighttime is when it's restoring, recovering, all of those beautiful words. So why is it that we deprive ourselves of it?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
it's, we got to understand too that, let's say you work out for 2 hours a day. You know, you still have 22 hours. 22 hours. Like, where do you think everything is going to happen? Like, in those 2 hours or in the next 22? You know, it's like, we always have to understand that it is not in the gym where all the processes happen. That's where the breakdown happens. And like, managing your stress is huge, because if you're stressed out constantly, you know, in the presence of cortisol, your stress hormone, there is not going to be any form of anabolism, which is growth, right? So those are your anabolic hormones that kick in, which are your growth hormones, guys. So it's just like, you have to remember that that is where that process happens, like through your eating, through your sleep. That is where you de-stress and how you even manage your stress. And I know, Kelly, you even talked about some of the things that you do to manage stress, like the tap stuff, whatever it is. It's like, it can be walking your dog, it can be exercise. Like, even though exercise is a form of stress, it's like there's the right and wrong way to do it, just kind of like what we were talking about. But it could be reading a book. You know, it's like, whatever you got to do to manage your stress, like, do it, because that is inevitably what's going to lead to you getting your results.
Yes, absolutely. And I think even like, I know my dear friend Michelle, she's probably with us right now. And I remember when she first, you know, began like her journey with me, and one of the biggest things for her was, she said, I remember her saying, I guess I just needed permission for somebody to say that it was okay for me to take breaks and to take those rests. And once we started to shift into that for her, that's when she started to lose that stubborn, you know, last few pounds that so many people struggle with. And it really is, you guys, you know, we have to get over that mental, like Trav was saying about, like, with regard to everything, we always feel like more is better, or, you know, hard work, hustle, you know. I don't even, you know, that I used to be like, oh, hustle harder, you're going to be more successful. Nope, not anymore. I don't believe in that anymore, you know, and I don't believe in that with my exercise either. And so it's not going to get you any further. at all. It's just really good consistency, being strategic, knowing a little bit of science, you know, getting some resources underneath your belt, like a little, you know, getting the test done or the heart rate monitor, or taking the time to go see somebody like Trevor and get something that's very specific to you. Now, this test, let's talk about this really quick, but I do want to go back to that marathon thing for a second. I don't want to forget about that.
Yeah.
But this test, you guys, comes with, was it 90 days worth of workouts? Like a 90-day? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can customize it to be 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever you want. I always go on the longer end of things, just because, like, it's essentially like, okay, when your cardio workouts stop, like when you know that it's your last workout, then you know it's time for a reassessment.
Yeah.
So I think it's just an easy way to kind of go about it.
Yeah.
And then we can always make adjustments like midway, because that's the other thing too, is like, I know Kelly's probably going to adapt a lot faster than someone who's brand new to exercise, or, you know, like someone who's just very deconditioned, because she was somebody that worked out a lot and did, like, you know, I mean, how long have you been working out for?
Oh, since I was 14, and I'm 46.
So you've chopped down the trail, you know, already. So it's like, you don't have to re-chop down the trail. You just got to start walking the path again. Right. And like, when it's just a little overgrown, it's a lot easier than initially chopping down the trail. Right?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, very good analogy.
She's
there.
probably going to progress, and we might have to make adjustments to her plan 4 weeks in. And I'm kind of expecting that. She might send me a text saying like, hey, these workouts are getting a little too easy. Can we ramp them up a little bit? And then I can actually go into our database. I can adjust her threshold to a little bit higher now, you know, so I can take it from 80 to 85%. You know, and it's not so much that like we're trying to get everybody to come in here and get these tests done, and we're like, all right, here's another 80, here's another $80, here's another $80.
No,
it's like, no, like we're actually trying to help you. Like, we're trying to make you understand that, like, you know, this is very individualized towards one person, right? So when you take this test, you get an individualized cardio plan based upon your thresholds.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that is like your maximum capability at that point. And that's going to change, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it should, right? So you guys, it's just helping to save you time. That's really what it is. It's helping to save time, to stop trying to figuring it out, to figure it out yourself. It's like, I would much rather stop throwing spaghetti at the wall, wouldn't you? You know, like instead of like, oh, I'll try this one. Oh, let's see if this works. Let's see if this sticks.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to do that. So let's go back to the marathon thing. So he mentioned something which is so cool, as that you as a male had said this, because it's so true. Now, you guys, now that we're bringing this to your awareness, I want you to look up a marathon runner, and I want you to look at their face, and I want you to look at the way that they look. They are aging much faster. They generally have a little more like hanging around there, you know, and they just look beat up and tired. Okay. I want to look thoroughly refreshed, and and a 6-pack wouldn't be the end of the world, but a sprinter does look like, you know, more beautiful skin.
Yeah.
Usually a 6-pack. They're very lean. They have these desired bodies, you know, and so I just want to put this into perspective for you. But as Trevor was saying, I love the analogy of stepping over $100 to pick up nickels. That's so, so true. So I want to really hone in on the stress of the body. And I want to kind of, I want to put, like I said, they're tired of listening to me on this stuff, I think. But I really want to just nail this in and let them understand about the stress on the body, and you know, that constant, you know, every day, oh, I gotta do 6 miles today, oh, you know, my program says I gotta do 10. Okay, you know, all right, so I'm gonna hand the mic to you.
So I try to tell everybody that your body is going to adapt to the stimulus provided. So if you train like a marathon runner, chances are you're going to look like a marathon runner. Even if you don't train like a marathon runner, but you have marathon runner principles, basically, right? Like doing cardio for 40 to 60 minutes every single day, right? You're going to end up looking like a marathon runner, because that is 60 minutes of constant stress that you're putting on your body. Now, given, you know, like low intense steady state is good, but it's good paired with a weight training program.
Yeah.
You know, I tell everybody, like, think of cardio as a tool. You know, it is a tool to get you to the desired body that you want, right? And chances are, most people aren't coming in with a performance-based objective. They're coming in with an aesthetic, an appearance-based objective, right? So it's like when you come in, you have to understand that, like, your weight training is the foundation. You know, I would say if you're making like a pyramid, it is the absolute foundation to what you're going to be doing. Your weight training program and your nutrition, right? And if we really wanted to get into it, I would put sleep and recovery at the bottom, right? That would be at your actual foundation.
Right, because you don't want to sacrifice either one of those for a workout. So he's right. So sleep, recovery, stress management, then weight training, then carry on.
Right. And the reason I do that, all right, is like, think of it this way. You have 7 opportunities to weight train in a week, right? So like, let's say you're like, man, I'm not going to be able to work out this one day. I'm not going to be able to work out today unless if I wake up 2 hours early and sacrifice 2 hours of sleep. Well, what would be better? What if you just worked out the next day on 8 hours of sleep instead of compromising yourself throughout the entire week? Because what do you think those 2 less hours of sleep are going to do to your body in the long run, right?
Yeah.
So we got to look bigger picture. We can't look at day to day. We have to look at week by week, month by month.
Yeah.
Because that is way more important than going day by day, right? So think of it as 7 opportunities in a week to get a workout in, right? And I would tell people, like, I would much rather have you go home and meal prep or sleep even versus coming in and getting this one workout in, because like that one day of meal prep instead of the one day of exercise can prepare you for a whole week.
Yep.
Right. And then like, bam, you lost one workout that week. You only get to work out 5 times this week. Oh man. Like, guess what? That is 5 more times than 99% of America.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you gotta be happy with that. That is a very, very good thing. So, and back to the marathon training. Again, like you said, we always get sidetracked. We start talking about one thing, and we completely derail. But yeah, like the marathon running, right? So it's like, we don't want to train like a marathon runner. We want to train like the body that we're trying to achieve.
Okay, so let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Give them an example of what that looks like. So we know that a marathon runner principle is 45 to 60 minutes daily. What would a desired workout look like for somebody that wants to look leaner and look more like a sprinter? So let's toss that in there real quick, just a little sprinkle.
Yeah, so let's think like, okay, I got 5 days a week. I even got 3 days a week to exercise. It could be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday routine where you do weight training. You come in, you do your good warm up, right? You do some weights, right? And think of like timed rest intervals. Because if you're dead set on having this cardio mindset, well, you know, think of cardio as 40 seconds of work, or 20 seconds of work, 40 seconds of rest, or 20 seconds of work, 60 seconds of rest. You know, what does that sound like? That sounds like, to me, 3 sets of 10, you know, with a 1 minute break in between, right? So you can elicit that cardio response with weights, you know, if that's what you want to do. Because what's that stimulus that's going to happen inside the body is your body's going to recognize that it needs muscle to adapt to that stress that you're providing.
Stressor.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, I need muscle for this. And, you know, muscle is I feel like it's almost like demonized in the women's fitness community, or at least for people starting out, as like, oh, I'm going to look bulky. You know, like, no, you're not going to look bulky. You're only going to look bulky if you train to look bulky and eat to look bulky. You know, like, you training 3 times a week, I'm not going to lie, is so minuscule in the women that look bulky. Yeah. They're like, you only train 3 times a week. They're going to laugh. Yeah. They're going to be like, you never look like me. Yeah. You got 20 years and probably a little bit of extra help from some supplements to even try to achieve this physique.
I was gonna say, let's lay that card on the table, you guys, because no, he's very right. There are a lot of people out there that are doing a little extra things to give them this desired look, which, you know, because that you're very true in saying that people think, I'm gonna look bulky. So I always say delicately muscle tone. instead of,
Yes.
gaining muscle. Cause then they think I'm going to
Yeah.
bulk up. Oh, freak out. So anyway, carry on. Sorry. Oh, are you still there?
All right.
Oh, there he is. He locked up. Oh, you must have had a
All
phone call. Okay. So,
Sorry.
so we were
Yeah, I had
talking
a
about,
phone call.
that's okay. That's okay. So we were talking about the workouts, about utilizing the weight training workouts to give that, get that cardio in there too. The sprinter workout. There he is. There you are.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's
Fixed
okay. That's okay. So we were talking about the weight training workouts with the getting the heart rate up a little bit and trying to keep
Yeah.
that stressor down. And about create your body. We tell the body wants to create muscle to adapt to the stressor that it's provided.
Yeah. Yeah. So like basically like if you think of like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday routine where you're hitting the weights, you're still applying that like that timed rest interval where your workouts then also become more effective. So if you are on a time crunch and you only have an hour, well, you can make a very great strength training routine done in 45 minutes, and then you have that 15-minute period at the end where you can hit a little bit of like low intense steady state cardio. You can even call that your cool down, like where you hop on the stair climber or you get on a treadmill and you walk on an incline. There's very easy ways to use cardio as a tool and not the end all be all.
Yeah.
So like, and again, back to that pyramid, I put cardio like almost like all the way at
tippity
the
top. Yeah.
Yeah, like because everyone thinks that's like the foundation is like their cardio, but I'm like that is so minuscule. And you talked about your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy long term to just basically say the stuff that you do every day, right?
Right. Yeah.
That takes up a much larger portion of your life than exercise ever will.
Yep.
So you guys simply increasing your NEAT will go a much larger scale than your cardio at the top.
Yep.
So like increase your NEAT first. Like take your 10,000 steps. Like walk around. Walk for 10 minutes after you eat a meal. Like do all those little things that you think are minuscule, but that add up over time.
Oh, huge.
Because
yeah,
that's 16 hours. Chances are 16 hours out of your day versus the 20 minutes on the stair climber.
right.
Which one do you actually think is going to burn more
As
calories?
what has more weight as far as the two. Now, some examples of NEAT are, gardening. I mean, us in Michigan, we're not gardening right now, but hey, man, in the summertime, there's a lot of yard work and stuff that I know a lot of these ladies do. So yard work, like he said, just getting your steps in, like that's a huge accomplishment. Doing your laundry, cleaning the house, cleaning the bathroom, all of those things, raking leaves, shoveling snow. I mean, all of these things that we do, like he said, we think don't matter, and they do. They have way more weight than that 20 minutes, like you said, on the stair stepper. So give yourself a high five for that. So other than that, I think that we covered everything. Oh, post-workout. That's another big question. So for me, you guys, I always say, and Trevor will probably be in agreement in this, is that after, when you go into an exercise, you're shifting over into the sympathetic. And then after post-workout, we want to shift over to the parasympathetic, which means peace, right? So we want to shut the cortisol off. And in doing so, we want to spike that insulin. And so, that's why that post-workout is so important.
Insulin?
Oh God. Yeah. And that's like one of those faux pas words, but insulin shuts off cortisol, you guys. And so a lot of people don't realize that. So, these are the things, like, this is why it's important to surround yourself by, invest in yourself is my thing. Don't ever be afraid to hire a coach. Don't ever be afraid to, rub elbows with Trevor and take the hour drive to go see him, because you never know what nugget he's going to drop. It's super important that you take the time for yourself and you surround yourself by, people that can potentially help you just get to that next level. So what do you recommend for post-workout? Like, what's your favorite post-workout meal?
So it does depend on like my availability. So if I can, I always try to go for a meal. But either way, like the idea is the same. It's carbs and protein after the workout. So if I can, like one of my favorites is probably white rice. So I love white rice. and then like some form of like lean protein,
Yeah.
whether it's egg whites with a couple, like maybe one whole egg just to
Yeah.
keep the fat.
It's a little trace
But
fat there.
essentially,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like what I'm shooting for really is just something that is going to get into my system fast.
Mm-hmm.
So like the white rice is really good, and then like the egg whites with like a very trivial amount of fat. So like one whole egg isn't going to kill like the digestion process that bad. It's 5 to 6 grams of fat depending on which
Yep.
eggs you buy.
Yep.
But that's probably like one of my favorite post-workout meals, and I think that's just because I love breakfast.
I do too. I know I'm a
uh,
big egg eater. Now, for those that aren't egg people,
yeah.
what do you think? Like, what do you think a good post? You know, like a shake. What do you feel about shakes?
So I love shakes too because they're like great options. You know, and like it kind of depends. Like for me, I'm doing like a weight cut right now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like a shake isn't gonna fill me up like the rice and chicken will,
Yeah.
but there are still times where I have to do it, you know, and I would rather have some form of nutrition after my workout than sitting there starving until my next meal, and then that causes me to like eat a little bit more than I should,
Yeah.
you know. And it's really about managing your stress, right? So I know
Mm-hmm.
we said that a lot, but you know, like you got to think if you don't have a meal for like another 2 to 3 hours after your workout, you're still in that state of stress. You never really recovered, right?
Yep.
So like that can cause you to make some poor decisions. And this really all comes down to like, you know, what decisions is this going to cause you to make?
Yep.
Because like eventually, you know, like it's going to take its toll if you just keep ignoring the signals that your body's telling you, like, hey, you're hungry, hey, you're hungry, hey, you're hungry. Eventually that's going to cause something bad to happen, like you
Yeah.
binge, or you just making bad decisions, or realizing that this is just too difficult. You
Yeah.
don't have to make this difficult. It could be easy, right? So like one thing I would do is like a whey protein shake,
Mm-hmm.
either with like a piece of fruit or some other form of
Like a
faster digestion.
banana.
Yeah, like a banana, apples, oranges, and I feel like some people demonize fruit too, and I'm
They
like, oh
do.
my god, please don't demonize fruit, because you know that's like you got to replenish liver glycogen as well as like your brain's glycogen. You know,
Yeah.
that's like the fuel that your brain uses is glycogen, and when we deplenish that, like we need to restore that.
Right.
So after your exercise, some people don't feel like they're all there, like cognitively,
Mm-hmm.
and like that is usually because of low fructose or low glycogen levels. You know,
Yeah.
like we can replenish that with fruit,
Yeah. And
or we can even do something like we have something at Lifetime called UCAN, and as sales pitchy as it sounds, it's something that does stabilize your insulin and blood sugar levels and will help you actually balance out. So like whey protein and UCAN is something I'll resort to, but I will still try to have that with a whole food source. So I'll
yeah.
still like pair it up with like a piece of fruit.
Right. So food before replacement items is, something that I've always said. However, like he
Yeah,
said, if I'm in a situation where I can't have a meal, then I'm absolutely going to have a shake, and I
yeah.
do enjoy having my shakes, it's
Oh
easy
yeah.
and all of that. Some really great fruit, you guys. Your berries are always going to be great choices. Berries are excellent. Apples, and do not demonize fruit. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's
No,
it's
please
it's
don't.
so important. And rice. That's the other thing too. People think, oh no, rice or potatoes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was one of those people. Now and we're not going to go off in this soapbox, but until I got certified as a macro coach, now what he was just talking about, he's in a cut phase that I'm in a refeed. So I'm excited to get to my cut
She's
phase
living
here.
life.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like, shit, I'm gonna get all this food in. But yeah, so when you, gosh, where was I going with this? But I used to demonize those things. And then I'm so grateful for the education and the process of learning that I can have those things,
Yeah,
and it really is like how your body responds. The reason it didn't respond well for me before is because I wasn't eating it properly, meaning that, it's like you don't really want to eat rice by itself. You always want to have like a good protein source with it. You know what I
sure.
mean? So there's like these different kinds of things. And so you guys, rice and potatoes are not going to make you fat.
No, no, by no means.
Yeah. So, again, don't demonize, find your balance. recognize that we shift from the sympathetic to the we go parasympathetic to sympathetic. Then we need to get back to parasympathetic, you guys. Always remember the P for parasympathetic. That means peace. Okay, so we want to go back to peace. So the sympathetic, we're in fight or flight. That means stress. That means cortisol. That means extra. When I say cortisol, just think extra fat. Okay. And, you know, when it comes to having that desire, that look that I know that you all want, think sprinter. Don't think marathon runner.
Yeah.
Okay. Be efficient. Be smart. Think of your foundation, like you talked about, your sleep, your stress management. You know, don't sacrifice your sleep or anything or your nutrition for a workout. You know, so there's a lot of things that we covered today, a lot of beliefs that need to be flipped here. And we recognize that we as professionals in this industry, that is one of the biggest things that we're up against is the thought process that you have. And we recognize that. We don't judge. We don't look at you differently, but we recognize that that is something that really needs to get broken through. And this is why I created this Sunday thing, because, you know, the food for your soul, because I want to educate you so that you can move forward and get past that barrier that you've been stuck behind. So I hope that this conversation was helpful for you. So Trevor, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to add? You're very welcome.
No, I mean, I think this is so cool that you do this for everybody. You know, it's like, it's always refreshing, like as a personal trainer, to find other trainers that are just like so into it, and they believe in it, and they do extra things like this for the people that they care about. So I think just like virtual high five to you for being so awesome. Like you guys don't even realize like how awesome of a resource you guys have to reach out to. So like, you know, I just think it's awesome. So this is really cool.
Awesome. And you know what? I would love to have another conversation. I think that we could talk a lot about the BMI and some other myths that we could kind of dispel. Trevor is actually at the one in Shelby Township. So also, Trev, let's give them some information about your what you can offer them if they decide that that's something that they want to do. The testing, what the cost is, how long the appointment is, maybe what we're looking at projection wise, like maybe you get booked out a week or two in advance, you know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, my schedule is usually pretty booked about 72 hours in advance. So if you do get a hold of me, just understand there might be like a 4 to 5 day, like process into actually getting you in. But there is like, as far as like, services that I offer, you know, you can do the metabolic testing. We actually do a resting and active. I know we didn't really talk anything about the resting. The active is the one that Kelly did with the mask, and then the resting is where you actually still use that same mask, but you kind of just sit down, and we actually get to measure like how many calories that your body burns just at rest, which is a cool test. But again, like it's still very, like, make sure you're at that point, right? Don't rush into these things. Like just like Kelly said earlier, you know, like if you kind of just like need to get started, you know, not everybody is ready to just start with a test. You know, sometimes it's more important to just get into the gym and make that your habit first. You know, like Kelly's at a certain point in her fitness journey where she can jump into a test and like go gung-ho on a cardio plan. Not everyone is there. So just understand and recognize your level, where you're at, and make sure that you're adjusting accordingly. But I also do personal training, nutrition coaching, and then I have like some group classes that I offer over at Lifetime. I'm in the Shelby location, and then prices vary depending on what you want to do, right? So it's like you can always reach out to me on Facebook. I'm usually really good at messaging back on Facebook, or you can do my email. It's just my first initial and my last name at LT Life, which I'll type in the comment section.
Okay.
Below.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. Great. Awesome. So yeah, you are going to be part of my tribe here, Trevor. So I know that some of the ladies are going to come see you and they'll be like, oh my God, I just love him. And, you know, so excited. So yeah, you guys, and again, you don't have to be a member to get this test done. But just reach out to him. He'll give you all the details. It's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And get it done, you know. So if you have any other comments or anything, you guys, just feel free to comment below. Trevor is in this group, and he can comment as well, and we're happy to help. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. And I got to go finish upstairs, and then I have to get my butt to Lifetime. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Trev. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for
you.
taking the time. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Bye.